Hello everyone, Annie with Ansarada support here. Welcome to part 3 of our data room training series. In this session, we'll review everything you need to know to set up security and add teams to your room. It's a good idea to have your initial document index set up prior to this, so you may want to check out our training on managing documents. If you're still at this stage, you can also feel free to click the link here if you'd like to start from the beginning of this training series. And as always, you can check out our help and support library or contact our friendly support team with any questions you might have after the video. Alright, let's jump right in. When logging into your data room, there are a few room sections you'll need to review in order to properly set up your security and invite people into the project. On the left-hand side, you will notice options to manage your teams based on their side of the transaction. This is where we'll spend the majority of today's training session. But before we get started, let's take a minute to review a few options under the Manage Settings tab that will have a broader impact on your security and team setup. On the Manage Settings tab, the first setting you will want to review is your transaction type, as this will impact labeling in the room. For example, if your deal is a fundraise, your team management sections will appear as client and financiers, whereas these areas will appear as sell side and buy side for an M&A process. For today's training, we'll set this labeling for M&A. If you continue to scroll down, you'll note a Terms of Access option. Enabling your Terms of Access allows you to upload or create a set of terms that people will be required to agree to upon their first login or any time the wording of these terms is updated. This is a great opportunity to remind your guests of an existing NDA or to reiterate that you will be hosting your diligence process directly through Ansarada's Q&A platform. Finally, if you scroll to the bottom of this page, you will note security and tracking options for Microsoft Office documents and PDFs. These should be switched on. Security controls allow you to restrict access and permissions on files and expire access to downloaded files. If access is removed within the room or the deal room is disabled, downloaded documents will self-destruct, meaning that guests who have downloaded these can no longer open them. When security is set up, you can also view activity such as views and bulk downloads within our reporting functionality. This applies even to files which have been downloaded and opened outside of the deal room. Let's jump to setting up your external teams. If you or a team member has already started this process, you will see any existing guests separated by team, along with their contact information and their room and Q&A roles. You will also note a status column showing a total login count and a timestamp of the guest's most recent login. Clicking on the login count of an individual will provide a shortcut to their user activity report, which will provide you with more detailed information on this user's activity, including login dates, document activity, including if a document has been viewed or printed, as well as bulk download information, Q&A activity, and information on any keyword searches the user has executed in the room. If you have not started this process, you can create a new team by clicking this option in either the top right or center of your page. Creating a team allows you to establish individual security settings for a group of people. This allows visibility over each team's activity as a group in reporting and Q&A. Because of this, it's typically a good idea to create a new team for each external party. When you create a new team, your first step will be to provide a name and confirm your search, bulk download, secure Office and AI Translate tool permissions. You can also change the color of the team, which will better differentiate them on both your buy side and sell side tabs and any graphical reporting. It should be noted that turning security and tracking on for Office documents at this stage simply allows this option. When creating teams, you will still have the option to make this decision for each individual team and sub-team as you go, which we will cover shortly. For visibility purposes, We'll go ahead and enable this at this time and select Save to ensure this is applied to our project. Once a team is created, you can click their Actions tab to see all available actions and a history report of changes to this team. Our first step is to define their security settings, which can be accessed by clicking Edit Security here, or you can click Change Team Access if you are yet to make any changes. Here you will find your document index, with all of your items denied as default. Any disabled items will appear in red and will not appear in the Live Document Index section of the room until enabled. The first column for access allows you to determine which files and folders this team can see in the room. You'll then need to set up each of the permissions and any watermarks you'd like this team to have. Access works from the top down, so allowing access on the top level will apply to all of the subfolders and contents within that folder. This will automatically apply to future uploads. You can always set access on an individual document level. To the right of the Access column, you will see your security permissions. Let's take a moment to explain what these control settings mean. Saving lets you control if users can temporarily save PDFs and Office files on their local device. Internet access is required to open any secured files on their desktop. This allows our servers to constantly check permission settings on this file. Files expire when access is revoked, save control is disabled, or the user or room is disabled. The print permission allows users to be able to print documents that they have been granted access to. Downloading must be allowed for users to print files. When editing is enabled, users can make changes to downloaded PDFs, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint files. This means for PDFs adding in comments and highlighting key information. Editing in Office allows people to perform their own analysis. Any changes or comments made to these files will not sync back to the room. For PDFs, users with Adobe Pro can edit PDFs saved to their desktop using the Adobe Pro Edit toolbar. Users with Adobe Reader can add comments to PDFs but cannot make direct edits to the document content. When copying has been granted, users can copy content from Excel, Word, and PowerPoint files if Secure Office is enabled. It is important to note that content copied to a new document cannot be tracked. Copying from secured PDFs is not possible. Lastly, administrators can enhance PDF security by adding watermarks that display user details such as IP address, email address, and date and time of access. Your Ansarada Deal room will have 2 templates automatically populated for your benefit. The confidential template displays confidential, the user's email address, access date and time, and IP address. The standard template shows the user's email address and access date and time. Administrators can also create custom watermarks with specific text and dynamic tags. With these security measures in place, you have the ability to monitor activity even when the user has downloaded files outside of the room. Now that we understand the security controls, there are some things we should note. Security is only applicable PDFs and Office files. However, all file types can be uploaded to the room. There are certain requirements that people accessing secured Office files need to have installed or enabled on their computer. See our help page on minimum requirements for more info. It is therefore recommended that files that are not intended for collaboration be converted to PDFs prior to upload. Any files that need to be marked up and returned or re-uploaded to the room should be released without Secure Office activated, as these are working files. For all other files, you should carefully consider the benefits of the additional security compared to the practical drawbacks within the system requirements. You will not be able to apply these security controls to other document types, so you may wish to convert text-based documents like TXT or MSG files to PDFs prior to upload. If there are any members of this party who require different security permissions, such as an HR or legal team member, you can always add a subteam to this group. If this party has similar settings with only slight modifications, you may wish to copy the security settings from the original group. Otherwise, you can click Edit Security to start this process fresh for your subteam. Once you have a team established, you can easily copy the team to create a new party with identical settings. This will allow you to maintain control over each of your parties while allowing for confidentiality in your Q&A process. You will want to rename newly copied parties for clarity purposes before adding guests to these teams. We highly recommend a comprehensive security review ahead of adding guests. You can do this using our document security report, which can be found within the report section of your room. This report can be customized to show access, security controls, and watermarks across any and all teams and subteams. You can also use the View As filter via the Document Index or Manage Documents section of your room to imitate the view of an existing party and double-check their settings. Any documents you download while this filter is applied will conform to the security controls and watermark settings you have established for this team. Should you happen to find any errors in your security setup, at this stage you can simply select the Edit Security action next to any existing team. Alternatively, selecting the security action next to a specific folder or file in the Manage Documents section of your room will allow you to edit the security settings of said item across multiple parties at once. Once security has been reviewed, you can set up members of your buy-side team and then your sell-side teams with a number of different room roles. Members of buy-side or external teams can only be added with a guest room role. This will allow them access to the document index based on their security settings and the Q&A section of the room if they have been assigned a Q&A role. If you'd like to allow them to ask questions during the deal, you will want to set them up as a question author. Depending on the complexity of your transaction and people involved, you may wish to assign 1 or 2 team members the question approver role. This will allow you to streamline the process and ensure there is an approval process which occurs prior to questions being submitted to you and your fellow Q&A admins. Your Q&A roles may look slightly different if you're involved in a procurement process. Again, we will cover off best practices for both our standard Q&A functionality and Q&A for Procure later in this series. Once you've set these roles, you can copy and paste all emails for this team directly into the Add Person box and enable your terms of access for this party if applicable. Once you're happy with the security settings, roles and user email addresses, you can check the box to invite users immediately. If you are just looking to pre-populate the room, you can leave this unchecked and instead click Add to set up your guests. When you're ready, you can invite guests by clicking Send Invitation under the Actions tab in the top right corner or on the menu next to any existing team. You can review and modify your invite, provide any necessary attachments, and select the necessary people to invite into the room. You can also use this tool to re-invite anyone who may have missed their original invitation to the project. It should be noted that you can customize the default contents of your invitation email and set standard attachments via the Manage Settings section of your room. You will find an email people function under the Actions menu in this part of the room, which may become useful after guests have received their invitation. This gives you the ability to email people in bulk directly from the room and can be helpful if you need to provide specific messaging to multiple parties at any stage of the deal. Emails will be sent from Ansarada's notification address, and you can rest assured that recipients will never see each other's details in this send. When sending emails from the room, it is typically a good idea to CC yourself in the send to maintain a record of this correspondence. After the initial setup of your data room, you may find the need to add additional people to your internal team or modify the details of your existing admins. This information can be reviewed within the Manage Sell Side section of your room. As we reviewed with your buy side, selecting Edit Team under the Actions tab will allow you to review default settings and change the name, color, or any other settings as needed. Again, at any time you can edit the security settings to permit or restrict further access. Beyond the distinction of room roles and Q&A roles, the Sell Side section of your room operates exactly like your Buy Side section, meaning you can feel free to create additional teams and subteams should your project require a more granular approach to internal security, or if you simply wish to separate out any advisory teams. Let's understand more about the different roles in the room. Administrators of the room will always have full unrestricted access to documents. All other roles will follow the security settings of their team, which by default denies access to all folders and files upon creation. If you would like to add users without full admin permissions, you can do so by selecting another role. The viewer role is essentially a read-only administrator. They have access to the document index based on their security permissions and all management areas of the room. They do not have access to manage settings, and Q&A will be dependent on their Q&A role. They can also access the report section of the room, but access to Q&A reporting will vary depending on their level of Q&A access. If they are not assigned a Q&A role, they cannot see any of the Q&A tabs. Publishers have the same management rights within the Manage Documents section as administrators, with the exception that they cannot alter security settings. They will also not be able to see or upload into any folders to which they have been denied access, but can create new folders as needed. Publishers can export to Excel, but cannot see the names and details of any users who uploaded or edited files. Finally, the limited viewer role will only have access to the document index and can be assigned a role in the Q&A process as needed. Thanks for joining me today to understand setting up teams, security, and users. I hope you're now feeling fully prepared to start creating your own teams. In our next session, we will take a more in-depth look at our Q&A functionality and some of the different ways you can set this up to maximize your diligence workflow.